It's time for story time from Japanese history. This time we're going to talk about Nakano Takeko. Now, a lot of people have heard about Tomoe Gozen, one of the more famous female samurai, but we're going to talk instead about Nakano Takeko, who is a little bit less known, but is just as badass. So the time is right in the transition period between the Edo era and the Meiji era. And we're in the middle of the Boshin War. And just a real quick recap, if that's not familiar, we are having a fight between the shogun and the emperor. And the shogunate has been in power for centuries. The emperor is trying to, we're doing our imperial restoration at this point, and it's a huge Japanese civil war. Now, just before the war comes out, we have the birth of our hero. So Nakano Takeko was born in the 1840s, probably about 1847. It's not exactly known. She was adopted by a famous swordsman and trained, I think, from the age of 6 on, and was good not only with the sword, but with the naginata, which of course is the traditional weapon for Japanese women, for samurai women, and that is the long polearm with the long blade on the end. And she's very good with the naginata. She's not only training herself, but she's serving as an instructor. So when things start to go south for a variety of reasons, she goes back to Aizu. Now, Aizu is in Fukushima, and it's very definitely loyalist to the shogunate. If you are undoubtedly familiar with the Shinsengumi are from Aizu. So this is an area that is absolutely not on board with the emperor. So when the Meiji forces win and the Tokugawa surrender, Aizu says, "Hey, that's a nice decision you made. We don't recognize it. We're still we're not on board for this imperial restoration. We still serve the shogun." And so the Meiji forces march north to Fukushima and to Aizu to establish control there. So by October of 1868, the imperial forces are converging on Aizu. And when I say imperial forces are converging, it's quite a lot. There's about 5,000 defenders in Aizu Wakamatsu, and 30,000 imperial troops are coming in. So they're hugely outnumbered. They're also, if you think about what the emperor wanted and what was going on culturally in that war, the Meiji troops are better armed. You know, they have what is at the time modern weaponry. That is not something that the defenders of Aizu are not bringing in guns from the foreigners. So they gather in Aizu Wakamatsu, they gather in the castle, and they defend against the assault. And it's brutal. It's not pretty in any form. And there's a lot of sad stories that come out of this. We'll talk about the Byakutai in another session. But Nakano Takeko gathers some women to her that she has trained, and they're going to protect their princess. But following some bad information, they go the wrong way across the field. They don't meet up with the woman that they're trying to protect, but they do encounter a gun unit. And these men, when they reach them, these men look at them and they're like, you can't fight with us. We can't fight with women. The Imperials might see us fighting with women and they would laugh at us. And Nakano Takeko just walks up to him and she's like, "You will let us fight with you, or you will watch while we all kill ourselves right now in front of you." And then they're like, okay, that's fine. So fast forward a bit in the battle. I'm hugely condensing, but there needs to be an assault on a particular bridge, and it's a suicide mission. And they're going to come at this bridge from 3 sides, and one of the units is going to be Takeko and her women. Takeko at this time is probably 22 years old. She has her mother with her, who's in her 40s, and she has a younger sister with her. And all of the women, you could call it a suicide pact, whatever it is, they know they're not going to live through the day. So this 21, 22-year-old woman leads out this band of 20 to 30 women and on this death charge across the bridge into what are professional troops with the most modern firearms at the time. And Takeko and her women are coming at them with naginata and swords. So it is said that the imperial soldiers saw, first, what is this? Oh gosh, they're women. Women! And it is said that they passed the word, "Don't kill them." This probably wasn't out of respect. Okay, so not a good thing. However, that little bit of hesitation at the beginning was a terrible mistake because it gave the women time to close with their naginata instead of being able to pick them off with ranged weapons. Eyewitnesses say Takeko killed at least 5 men herself. She was on fire, just rolled in, took her naginata, cleared a path. By all accounts, women put up a ferocious fight and really put a dent in the imperial troops. But at last, a rifle bullet did take Takeko, and there's disputed reports whether she was hit in the chest or in the head. Either way, most people will say the chest. Either way, she was mortally wounded. So she collapses on the battlefield, and her younger sister sees her and rushes to her. Now, if you remember, everyone knew they weren't getting out. Everyone knew there was no way they were going to die fighting, or they were going to die, but they were not going with the imperial troops. So Takeko tells her younger sister, "You do not let my head be taken as a trophy. The last thing you do for me is you take my head so none of them can have it and show it off." There's some dispute in the story whether or not she was able to cut off her older sister's head by herself, whether she was physically exhausted or injured herself, whether it was a purely emotional thing. It's hard to say, we just don't know, but there is report that she may have had help from either her mother or one of the soldiers to complete the decapitation of her sister. But she gets away. She takes the head and she flees, and she actually gets away, and at Hokaiji, which is a nearby temple, she buries the head beneath a tree. Now, Aizu Wakamatsu does fall. Tragically, we'll talk a little bit about some of that in another story. But to this day, every autumn, there is a parade in Aizu Wakamatsu in which Nakano Takeko is honored, and women dress as her and her Joshitai, or girls' army, and who went out and defended their homeland. So that is Nakano Takeko, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about her because she was amazing. And may we all be that brave. So thank you for joining me for another story time from Japanese history.